This mutation is called Wheel of Misfortune, also known as everybody's favorite mutation that everybody looks forward to whenever they see on the upcoming mutations list. So over here I'm going to just start out by saying that we have Alarak that has provided Artanis with a pylon, which I believe Mr. Hunter here is not wrong. You the best. If you are ever playing with an Artanis ally and you are playing a Protoss commander that builds pylons, basically not Zeratul, please provide your ally with a pylon, because it does end up saving a lot of resources, especially in the early game, which is where it is most important. So it is just good form. I will say this though, I tend to forget that I can do that. It's somewhat hypocritical of me, but here we go. So, Wheel of Misfortune. 3 mutators are always present on the map and they get cycled through. So this is the main Wheel of Misfortune mutator. This is the Chaos Studios. So we're starting off with Blizzard, and we have Walking Infested. We have Scorched Earth. Not terrible set of mutators to start. They do not affect the economy at the beginning of the game. So for the most part, this is going to be very useful for our allies as they start in the early game. And one of the most important things is just getting off to a good start so that you can deal with the more difficult mutators in the later stages of the game. So sometimes, you might start off with mineral shields or slim pickings or something. That severely stifles your economy in the early game and makes it significantly more difficult to deal with, something like Void Rifts, for example. So just having a good set of mutators to start can mean the difference between a win or a loss. And also, there's something to also note, is that not all of the Wheel of Misfortune mutators are winnable. You will sometimes get a very, very nasty set of combination of mutators, and there's basically nothing you can do about it. You'll just get completely rolled because your economy gets stifled. You have to go and deal with like really extra strong units, and you just end up getting wrecked. And this is also one of the reasons why this mutation is not a very fun or very popular mutation in the co-op community, because it is just down to randomness here. So we have a probe now that is making its way towards the expansion. I'm not really sure what the probe's idea is, but I'm sure that there is a plan for this. But as you can see, there is Blizzard over here. The ship is going to start launching right now as part of its panic launch sequence. And now there's a warp in to there's a project power field here, and I believe the Artanis is going to warp in a few units on this side. Alarak is already ready for battle, and he is good to go. There is a cannon on the front line over here, and this is another one. I think he's put down. Okay, he's put down another pylon, which is okay. Artanis doesn't really need a second pylon. He can build an Artosis pylon, and Artanis can basically build 16 structures onto that pylon, so he doesn't really need it. But it's always nice to have here. So Alarak is going to start attacking through this side, and unfortunately the Just Die mutator has been added, so that is somewhat unfortunate. Lava bursts have been removed, but now Just Die makes this a very not fun mutator to deal with, because now these infested have 2 lives over here, and it is going to be very problematic. There is a solar bombardment that gets dropped onto this side, so this will hold this the top side a little bit easier here. And this probe is getting hit by Blizzard. So yeah, the expansion on this mission cannot be taken because the Blizzard actually goes through this expansion, and you will end up losing your structures and your workers in the process. We have a nice one that has come up here. The Zerglings causing a lot of havoc because they have Just Die, and there are a few Zealots here with the Whirlwind ability and the Charge ability, which is making them a little bit effective against these units. We have an Orbital Strike that's come down. Artanis really does not want to lose this early evacuation ship, but Alarak is going to be having a very difficult time. Another destruction wave comes up. Seems to be doing okay. Alarak taking a little bit too much damage, but again, every time he uses the destruction wave, he ends up healing a lot here, and that is ending up keeping him alive. And unfortunately now, the Black Death has been added, and now it is going to be very, very difficult for Alarak to remain alive, because he is actually infected as well. So that is going to be very, very unpleasant right now. And there we go. So we have Black Death and Just Die. So some compliments for Artanis. That was a nice hole indeed. That was a very nice hole for Alarak. Very, very close to ending up getting wiped. He is going to end up losing his guys. And be honest, I would not keep them near these dudes here that are waiting. Alarak is just going to end up getting wiped. And there we go. So Artanis does do a warp in here, trying to clear out the site. I don't know whether he wants to actually try and go and take this expansion. It is really risky because if Blizzard comes back, you will lose your expo. Now, the chances that does happen is relatively low, but you know, there's always a chance, and I don't really know whether it's worth the mineral cost. Unfortunately, now there's an attack wave right on top of Artanis' base here, and remember, they have Just Die and they have the Black Death. So that is going to make stuff very, very tricky. A bunch of Warp and Zealots are here. Alarak has gotten wiped now by the Black Death Mutator. And now the next evacuation ship has to be saved, which is going to be very challenging. Blizzard has been removed now from the Mutator list. And now we have Avenger that is added. And that could not be any worse. Just Die, Black Death, and Avenger are just, it's just a completely nasty set of mutators, and Avenger is going to be there for a while, and they will have to defend this evacuation ship through the Avenger mutator, which is not very easy to do. There's also an attack wave that is making its way towards this evacuation ship, and it seems like none of the commanders are going to be addressing it sometime soon. So there's a vision now here, there's a zealot, there's a hero zealot that's going to be providing vision, and now there's a warping on this side. Again, the zealots charge on, they will be doing okay. Some orbital strikes come down as well to just provide a little bit of extra DPS here, and now this evacuation ship is going to be taking a lot of damage here. These Zerglings are so fast because of the Avenger mutator, and this evacuation ship is just going to end up getting completely melted by these Zerglings, and down goes that evacuation ship, because there's pretty much nothing that could be done here. Unfortunately, Alarak supplicants are a little bit too late, and now they are also being caught by the Blizzard here, and they will be slowed, and they will be taking a little bit of damage, combined with the Avenger stacked infested, which are also in the mix here. Alarak has already probably been affected by the Black Death Mutator, and there we go. Just Die has been removed, which is kind of good, and now we have Speed Freaks being added, so not terrible right now, but the Black Death and the Speed Freaks does mean that the enemy units will be on top of your face as soon as they spawn, which means that it's very unlikely that you're going to be able to dodge the Black Death effect that gets that spreads the Plague Mutator to your units. So I think it'll just be inevitable your army is going to be infected by the Mutator here. So we do have an expansion that's being taken for Artanis. I don't know if Alarak wants to take his expansion, but they will have to go and try and deal with this next. And the Supplicant has been infected by the Black Death Mutator, and Alarak will have to split his guys apart to make sure he doesn't end up infecting the rest of his army, but I don't think he wants to do that. Alarak is being infected here, and now Alarak is going to start clearing this side. So he dropped a Death Fleet down, and that Death Fleet will help clear out the side here. Remember, there is an Avenger Mutator available, but now Black Death has been removed from the Mutator cycle, and we will see what the next Mutator gets added. We have the Void Reanimators Mutator that gets added, and that is just very unpleasant. Void Reanimators do spawn from the enemy structures, but at such an early stage of the game, it is very difficult to all clear this mission and prevent Void Reanimators from spawning, which means at some point there will be a trickle of units that will be coming in and harassing these players' bases here, because the Void Reanimators, as soon as there is a unit is given an attack command towards the nearest enemy, towards the nearest player base. So that is going to be a little bit of a problem, and combined with the Avenger sack, not very pleasant to deal with. And both players are still reeling from the early game with the Black Death and the Avenger stacked as well. So this is going to be a little bit difficult. The good thing is that Just Die has been removed from the cycle, so from the Mutator set. So it does make pushing and defending these ships a little bit easier than when it was available over here. So we will see what the plan is. Alarak is just going to push in now, and he does end up suiciding inside the site. Maybe ends up clearing out a few units here. And now the Avenger Mutator has been removed from the list, and we now have a solar bombardment to go and deal with this side. We do have the laser drill that gets added to this Mutator list. Laser drill, Speed Freaks, and Void Reanimators are overall okay. The only difficult part is this Void Reanimators. Now, these Void Reanimators are ridiculously annoying. They will keep resurrecting a bunch of units, as you can see over here. And yeah, there we go. Artanis warps in a bunch of Zealots, just focuses down this Void Reanimator, and ends up freeing that guy up here. I think there are still some enemy structures on this side. like I said, at this early stage of a game, it is very impractical to try and all clear this mission to stop the Void Reanimators from spawning. Because you have the area over here to clear, and you basically have to clear every single evacuation ship area. There are not that many structures on the map, but they're all spread out, and you know, sending your army over to just clear it so you don't have to deal with Void Reanimators is a little bit impractical. So we do have a bunch of photon cannons over here, and we have a bunch of zealots here on patrol as well. So Void Reanimator there, he does have the Speed Freaks Mutator, and now he's starting to harass this side a little bit. But I think Artanis has given an attack command onto this Reanimator here. But unfortunately, the laser drill is dealing a good amount of damage to these zealots, and now these zealots have been cleared. There is a photon cannon. There is a set of photon cannons over here, and yeah. So there we go. Speed Freaks has been removed, and Twister has been added, which is one of the better mutators to get here. Artanis has warped in a bunch of High Templars, so he has advantage of using some storms here. What do we have for the... Yeah, so he has actually a split here into the energy regeneration and the warp speed mastery. So that'll actually make his High Templars even a little bit more effective. And he's gone for a very, very balanced build here, so... there is an active strategy that is being utilized over here, and that is just being able to deal with anything with this kind of balanced kind of build here. And generally speaking, you do not want to have your skill points split into such areas, but because he's going against Wheel of Misfortune, which means you don't really know what to expect, and going for a balanced build here works really effectively. And you know, you can see the initial Spear of Dune energy is something Artanis would not normally pick. But just having an initial Spear of Dune energy gives you the extra early game power, you know, in case you're dealing with early game pressure. And you can see it's working really well for Artanis here. So this is one other thing to also note, is when you are playing with mutators, don't be afraid to change your masteries to help suit the mutator that you're up against. You know, if you know what you're going to be doing, if you have a plan, which is something you should always be you know, aiming for. You should always try and you know, get something set. So, Void Reanimators has been removed, and Avenger has been added to the mutator list now, back again. And Avenger again is a really nasty mutator, and this Void Reanimator is still being an MVP, resurrecting that one Scourge over there, which is kind of funny. It's like the Scourge dies, it respawns, Scourge dies again, respawns. And that Void Reanimator is going to end up getting cleaned up by Artanis' zealots there. Artanis pretty much had enough. That one Scourge. He could have actually left that Scourge there to just increase his kill count and be like, oh look, I've gotten 5,000 kills there. But I'm pretty sure that might end up backfiring at some point. Alarak is starting to get some Wrathwalkers, which is really good. And now we have another attack wave that has come up here that ends up getting stormed to Oblivion. There are a few more. I think there is just going to be an Overlord drop now that is left. Unfortunately, there is no energy left onto these High Templars, so they end up getting converted to Archons to refill their energy. And this is something else to also note about the Artanis strategy on this mission. You can warp in your High Templars, cast your Storms, and only then convert them to Archons. While the Archons are objectively better than the High Templars, just you end up wasting a little bit of energy if you are not you know, playing as efficiently as possible. So warp in the High Templars, get some value out of their storms and their feedbacks and whatnot, and then convert them to Archons, and then they basically refill the energy bar there. So we now have Slim Pickings being added into the mix. So this is going to be again a little bit tricky. The Slim Pickings does reduce the effectiveness of a player's economy, and the other thing it also does, while it is not really applicable on this mission, it's not really impactful, is that the total mineral field count here, the resources, will be permanently reduced even after Slim Pickings disappears. So Slim Pickings does two things. It means that your workers only mine one resource per path, per trip. But it also means that the amount of resources that are available on each mineral patch and boosting patch has been reduced. So those are the two effects that Slim Pickings does. Now, on Wheel of Misfortune, when Slim Pickings appears, and then eventually it's going to disappear because that's what Wheel of Misfortune does, when Slim Pickings disappears, the mineral fields are not reset back to their original capacity, which means your workers will start mining the 5 minerals per trip. But the capacity of your mineral fields has still been reduced, and that means that you will end up mining out a lot faster than you would normally be expecting. A barrier gets added over here now as an indicator. So that is something to take into consideration if you intend on playing a long game with Wheel of Misfortune. If you are playing a mission where you want to take it slowly, say lock and load, for example, or a mission where you can actually hold for a large amount of time, Dead of Night, Lock and Load, and Chain of Ascension are the ones I can think of right now off the top of my head. You have to realize that if you end up with a Slim Pickings Mutator, you're going to run out of minerals a lot faster than you are initially planning, and that can cause some significant problems for you. So do take that into consideration when you are playing with Wheel of Misfortune. The second you hit Slim Pickings, your mineral fields are going to be reduced by that amount. You will end up mining out your resource patches a lot faster. Once the Slim Pickings Mutator disappears, of course. We have Alarak here, slowly pushing into this side. And Avenger is the next Mutator that is slated for removal. There we go. Avenger has been removed from the stack. And now the next Mutator that gets added is going to be... Wait for it. Temporal Field. So Temporal Field is really, really good, and this is probably the time where the commanders will really want to push as much as possible on the map to just get as much value here. Unfortunately, because they did lose that ship at the bottom side, it means that they will have to launch this ship as well, which is the siege tank ship. But both the commanders are in position now to hold and defend this ship now. And it looks like, for the most part, should be okay. There's nothing really too nasty here. It's just the barrier, but that just gives the infested just a little bit of damage absorption. It's not really terrible. You can see here, Alarak's spec army just can completely shred these units with too many problems. There's an attack wave also that is coming up towards the side, but it'll be intercepted by the commander's army, so it's not too bad here. I like to just push him forward a little bit and using destruction waves to do a little bit of damage. There is an attack wave that is making its way now towards the allied bases, and there are a lot of Vipers here. There is very nice feedbacks on that High Templar there, just get a bit of value from that. He ends up wiping out those Vipers, and now there is a bunch of High Templars. One of those High Templars does end up getting picked off. There are a bunch of storms as well, but the overlords are kept alive by that. So yeah, Slim Pickings has been removed, but Mineral Shields gets added to the mix again. Really annoying Mutator if you are trying to set up a nice economy, and Alarak needs that kind of economy to get everything set up and to build his mech army. Now the attack wave has started to land in the side, so we do have a bunch of pylon overcharges that have aggroed the Mineral Shields for some reason. And unfortunately, there are no static defenses on the back line here, so that is going to be a little bit of a problem for Alarak and Artanis. Alarak is pulling a few resources, so it's not terrible for him just yet. And yeah, this evacuation ship has been saved, but I think Artanis might have lost a few of the units in that engage, but overall, not terrible here. And now the commanders are going to go ahead and start the next ship, I believe. And yeah, I think overall okay here. You can see these mineral patches now are starting to get depleted very, very quickly. It's still there's still a few resources available here, but it's not nearly as much as when you first started off, and it does mean that you will have to try and rush certain missions to make sure you don't end up mining out as quickly. Now on this mission, usually you will end up clearing before anything really bad happens, but take that into consideration. So we have Lava Burst that's returning now from the mix. I think Barrier was removed, and now Lava Burst gets re-added to the mix here. And both these commanders are ready to start the next ship. So they will be launching right now, and they're doing the manual launch right now, which means that they are very confident in their ability to deal with this. And again, we have a few mineral shields here. We have an Archon that gets added just over here to just deal with this stuff. Over here, unfortunately, mineral shields have completely stopped the mining for Artanis, and Artanis is going to have to add a unit here to clear out these shields. Same over here. And over here we just have an overcharge that's being used to clear out the side. And now we have another harass wave that's coming up. Lava Burst can get a little bit tricky, but you can see just the sheer number of High Templars here, and the efficient usage of the High Templars. He's using the High Templars before he's converting them to Archons, which means he's just getting double the amount of energy per weapon of High Templars. So it's just efficient play, which is very important when you're dealing with a Mutator, which can be really punishing. So see what the next mutation that gets added is. We have Scorched Earth, which is actually really good again. Scorched Earth, Lava Burst gets a little bit annoying, but it's not very difficult as long as you're paying attention to your army. It does not end up walking over the lava, which is what Alarak's army is doing right now, and his army is taking a little bit of damage. One of the Colossi go down, second Colossus goes down, and I think for the most part this is all okay. But now there is an attack wave that is coming up towards the players' bases. A lot of storms end up going down onto this attack wave. Fortunately, there are a bunch of swarm hosts that are sending a stream of locusts towards the players, and now there is just one swarm host that is remaining, and there is again a premature GG. Unfortunately, they are not done. Oh, they are done! Oh, oops, I thought for some reason they were not done. But anyway, that is indeed GG.